Sanbonani Africa, and a warm welcome to JIT-TV News, where we bring you nothing but politics, business, sports, and entertainment all in one experience. Now let us take a look now at your headlines for today. Zimbabwe exemption permit comes to an end by early June 2023. SARS finds no record that $580,000 paid to President Ramaphosa farm was declared by Buffalo buyer. Police inspector in court for selling guns to the public. Now, South African tax authorities were not able to find any record that Hazen Mustafa, the Sudanese businessman who paid $580,000 in cash to President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala farm, declared the cash he brought into the country in December 2019. The tax agency responded to a Promotion of Access to Information Act request by DA leader John on the 5th of March, stating that the tax service was satisfied that after it had taken reasonable steps to find the record, it concluded that the record either did not exist or it could not be found. In terms of PAIA, SARS also attached an affidavit by the responsible official, in this case a legal specialist, Corporate Legal Services, Siyabonga Nkabinde, who had searched for the records.
I think, maybe let me start with this one. That would be a little bit difficult to prove, because it would then place a duty on you and I, if you are store owners, when a person comes with a large sum of money, the first question would be, did you declare this amount of money as SARS? I think what the law says is that you must keep a record of certain funds which are coming into your establishment, so that when the time comes to go and report in that particular law institutions or regulatory institutions, it's easier for you to account as to where you get that money from. So on that basis, then I would hold the president accountable. But other than that, I would say the president is, let's call it an innocent bystander for this particular process. What is more important is what the opposition parties are saying. Let's not go for a full throttle impeachment proceedings. Let's start with an ad hoc committee which is going to look into these particular matters. I think by this time they've probably learned a thing or few in terms of the type of powers in which you're supposed to give to this ad hoc committee. So don't create a committee with no teeth. Don't create a committee which does not have any power to subpoena anyone or certain documents. Don't create a committee which is, at the end of the day, is going to provide very basic recommendations which are not binding or are not really applicable or persuasive to parliamentarians when they need to take decisions. If you go for an ad hoc committee, you are providing opportunity for the president to clear his name, at the same time making sure that parliamentary processes have been protected. And the most important part is the outcome party principle being the right to be heard being provided. Let's also remember in this particular proceedings that it is the president that drafted the affidavit that told us all as to what had happened in Phala Farm. So this is not something which is being insinuated from somewhere else. It is direct evidence from the president, the person who participated, that has created all these situations and certain ideas which have been planted. So to allay those fears and to be able to answer one and follow to this allegation, I would say maybe the Democratic Alliance is correct in terms of saying, let's create an ad hoc committee, and if you are really innocent, you can be able to go to the committee and prove yourself as innocent within that particular committee to be created.
Now, 3 Domboshava business people bought guns from Inspector Guda Kwashe Chitigobo of Support Unit at Febridge in Bulawayo and his accomplice, but then complained when the firearms certificates that came with them had the wrong addresses, which led to the arrest of the 2 illegal police dealers. Chitigobo is illegal to be part of a team involving Tonderai Shenche, who has since appeared in court on similar allegations. The court heard that on September 21 last year, Mr. Warikadwa proceeded to the Central Firearms Registry with intention to correct the address on the firearm certificate and was told that his firearm was not properly registered. Now into the African news now. Ethiopia is flying its flag high and keeping its promises by cleaning off poor people in the street. Beggars, street vendors hawking vegetables and second-hand clothes. Also teenagers offering roadside shoe shines and sticks of gum. A number of low-income families in the city said that the beggars and vendors who usually work in the streets had been summarily detained by authorities and kept in detention centers for the duration of the summit. They were replaced by a heavy police and security presence. According to the World Bank, 27% of Ethiopia's 120 million population live below poverty line of $2.15 a day.
18-year-old Birtukan Alamayehu has been living on the streets of downtown Addis Ababa for nearly 4 years. She's 7 months pregnant and has nowhere to go.
Whether it is street children or sex workers, it is not a life we choose. No one chooses to become a prostitute or a beggar while there's work or a roof over their heads. Now what we want is some sort of training, but overall, we want a roof over our heads.
Ethiopia has been among Africa's fastest growing economies for more than a decade. But there are around 50,000 people living on the streets of the capital and close to 10,000 sex workers. Officials are now trying to improve Addis Ababa's image and have drafted a law that will ban begging and sex work on the city streets. Their solution to the problem is rehabilitation centers like these, which provide medical care, offer counseling and give vocational training. This young woman was on the street for 3 months before she was brought to a center.
I was happy to come to this center because it was my wish, even while I was on the street, that I will someday be rescued by an organization like this. Today, it has helped me to discover myself and quit my addictions. My future plan is to get educated, be employed, and help my family after transforming myself.
Addis Ababa's city administration recently launched a fund which they say will be used to provide shelter and basic needs for people living on the street. A special number has been set up for the public to make donations via their mobile phones. Government employees are also being trained to provide support to beggars and sex workers.
Moving right along now to the international news. Japan's maiden launch of its new flagship space rocket ended in failure on Tuesday when controllers issued a destruct command just 15 minutes after liftoff, the country's space agency said. Tuesday's failure occurred on JAXA's second attempt to launch the H-3. On February 17, 2 secondary booster engines strapped to the side of the space vehicle did not ignite on the launch pad and the H-3 failed to take off. JAXA added that they are aiming to create an operational world which Japanese industrial base can be underpinned by steadily launching the H-3 6 times or so annually for 20 years.
Solid boosters ignition and liftoff.
H3 ロケット電池1号機は2023年3月7日午前10時37分55秒に種子島宇宙センターから打ち上げられました。
We have a successful liftoff for H3 launch vehicle test flight with 803 from JAXA Tanegashima Space Center at 10:37:55 a.m. on March 7th, 2023, Japan Standard Time.
打ち上げ以降、ロケットの管制は滝崎発射管制塔から滝崎総合司令塔に引き継がれています。
The operation control of H3 has been switched from launch control center to range control center.
打ち上げ後1分が経過しました。
It's 1 minute into flight.
71
Now, the government officials, private sector players, and key stakeholders in the climate space will next week hold a conference in Harare to deliberate on the nexus between climate and development, climate adaptation, and resilience. The conference comes at a time global economies are fighting the negative impact of climate change, endorsed problems, and seized with strategies to build resilience. Panelists will be discussing discussing climate change in relation to mining, agriculture, energy, water security, societal response, and policy development, among others. On to our second story. Wall Street investors are gearing up for their version of Hell Week, a torrent of jobs data coming over the next few days that could easily lead to a volatile market swings. In just 1 year, the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates from nearly zero to a range of 4.5% to 4.75% to cool the economy. Job numbers, meanwhile, have blown past expectations for the past 10 months. The labor market is stronger than ever. The U.S. added a shocking 517,000 jobs in January and knocked unemployment down to its lowest level since 1969.
Have come in stronger than expected, which suggests that the ultimate level of interest rates is likely to be higher than previously anticipated. If the totality of the data were to indicate that faster tightening is warranted, we'd be prepared to increase the pace of rate hikes.
And on today's sports news, we have the Zimbabwe Rugby Union, who cemented their relationship with Nedbank following the successful launch of the 2023 Nedbank Rugby Challenge Cup in Harare yesterday. The association will get a sponsorship of $23,000 from the leading financial institution for the 3-day event. World number 1 Novak Djokovic has withdrawn from this week's Indian Wells Master tennis event, with the Serb unable to enter the United States. The tournament announced its withdrawal on Sunday night. Play in the combined ATP WTA event begins tomorrow at India Wells Tennis Garden and runs through the 29th of March. Rick Scott said on Twitter that Homeland Security had rejected Djokovic's vaccine waiver request, which would have allowed him to play back-to-back at Indian Wells and Miami, which runs March 19 until the 2nd of April.
Djokovic's application was backed by the U.S. Tennis Association as well as the U.S. Open organizers, but it wasn't accepted by the government. The U.S. government's COVID policy states unvaccinated foreigners cannot enter the country by air. That rule could be lifted, though, when the government ends its COVID-19 emergency declarations on the 11th of May. With the 22-time Grand Slam champion adamant on not receiving a COVID-19 vaccine, he will be missing the upcoming Indian Wells Masters for the 3rd consecutive year.
Let us look now at today's financial indicators. Coming back from the financial indicators, my team yesterday had paid a visit to His Excellency Mr. Ahmad Ziripi, who hosted a meeting in Pretoria yesterday based on identifying Zimbabwean businesses in South Africa if they are being a beneficiary to the Zimbabwean country, and also to do a follow-up with regards to the Zimbabwean exemption permit visa information in South Africa. The event was full of nothing but top business individuals, media, press, and the ambassador himself, and this is what His Excellency had to say during his speech.
It is a decision taken by the government of South Africa. The timing of that decision, again, the government of Zimbabwe had no hand in it. In any case, Zimbabwean nationals who are in the diaspora are welcome to come back home at any time. It's their home. We cannot prevent them from coming. They must come back home. Those who wish to come back home, it's their home. And in any case, as you rightly said, and what the president has said, we cannot expect other people to build our country for us and for us to only then come and enjoy the fruits of it. We will not be partakers. We will not even be the wealth creators of our own country if we take that sort of attitude. So that is why we are inviting our nationals, irrespective of the circumstances, to say you have a home, and in that home you have a place, and you have a role to play in building this home.
So there you have it, Ambassador, His Excellency Ahmad Ziripi, Nika Inovagwa Nevanvayo. As the President said, brick by brick. It is not a political situation to say Zimbabweans are being chased out of South Africa to go and vote. Zimbabweans are welcome. Zimbabwe is for Zimbabweans. So let us see the call. Let's look at the opportunities that present and what an opportunities time it is where Zimbabwe is thriving. The industries are growing. Road construction is happening. There's a lot that's happening. And a lot of foreign investments are getting in there while Zimbabweans are on the sideline. And people, we should see this as an opportunity as Zimbabweans to take the lead and build Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans.
And that is all from me to you. A huge thank you for joining me tonight. As always, kindly please comment and follow us on all our social media platforms at Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, or rather go to our website at www.JIT-TVzw. Signing out, it is Andile Gugulethu in Ntombi yakwaCintu Mahlaba. Have yourselves an amazing day.